Welcome back to Building with David. I have all my pieces sanded, wiped off, and ready to go, and hopefully by now you do too. But first I wanted to talk a little bit about sanding. When we ended the last video and I was showing you how to sand, I talked about on the ends that we marked with one dot that you just wanted to sand them enough to get these tabs off and get them smooth. And now I'm going to show you why. So here's one of our ends. Here is a piece that I've sanded and over sanded it and made it round. Well, we're going to put this together, and then I'll lift it up here so you can see. So on this side, this is a piece that's done right, and you can see how the surface area is nice and flat. Over here, there's a lot of spaces. So when you go to glue this together and you try and glue this side here with all that space, it's not going to glue good because you need the surface area of the glue to hold that together. So that is why we want to just sand enough to get the tabs off so it'll fit in there tight. Okay, so now we're going to go on to putting this birdhouse together. So you're going to need the back piece, which is the one without the hole. Will be here, and then this long piece, which is the hanger piece. So we need to figure out what measurements we need to get this centered up. So I'm going to measure both of these pieces. So on this one, we have 6 inches, right on the dot. And this piece is not an even inch, so we've got 1 inch plus 1, 2, 3/4. Well, we're going to go over here to the whiteboard, and I'm going to explain all that to you, so you understand what I'm talking about. So on the tape measure, we've got a full inch, and it is divided into 8 pieces. So we've got 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8, which is a whole inch. But that's not how you talk about them in the construction world, in building. You have to break them down. So 2/8 will break down into 1/4 or 1/4. 4/8 we can break down into 2/4 or 2/4. 6/8 will break down into 3/4 or 3/4. And then they will break down further. So this bottom line here in orange is how you will actually read your tape measure. So the 1/8 stays 1/8. The 2/8, which you broke down into 1/4 or 1/4, stays 1/4. 3/8 stays 3/8. Now the 4/8, which we broke down into 2/4, is a half. 5/8 stays 5/8. 6/8 that we broke down into 3/4 stays 3/4. 7/8 stays 7/8. 8/8, which was a whole inch, stays a whole inch. So on the tape measure, it's going to look similar to this right here. So you got the start of your tape measure, and then you got 1 full inch. So when you divide this across here in half, which is this longer line here, so half right here in the middle. So then when we divide the half into, gives us 4 pieces of the inch. So that's where we use the 1/4, the 2/4, or the 2/4, but we say it as a half, and then the 3/4. So we got 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. And then we split all those up one more time to give us 8 sections to the tape measure. So the first line would be 1/8 is here. And like we talked about, the next one is 1/4. Your next short line is 3/8. And we got half right in the middle, which is half of the inch. And the 5/8, the 3/4, and the 7/8. So now, we're going to take everything we've learned there to figure out so we can get this hanger in the center of this the back of the birdhouse. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how much space we have on each side. So to do that, if you remember, we measured this was 6 inches. This was 1 3/4 inch. So we're going to take 6 inches, subtract off 1 3/4, and that gives us 4 1/4. So 4 1/4 is not necessarily easy to divide in half. The 4 is, because it easily becomes a 2. But if you remember up here, the 1/4, we can change that to 2/8. So 1/4 is 2/8. So then we can divide this 2 down to 1. So we took the 4, half of that is 2. Took the 2/8, half of that is 1/8. So our space on each side needs to be 2 1/8 inches. So let's go back over here, and we're going to mark our piece. So you don't have to mark, so this is going to go here. We don't have to mark both sides because we know both sides is 2 1/8 inch. So we're going to come down here at the bottom, and we've got the 2, and on this tape measure it actually tells you which 1/8 inch is. If you can you see that? So we're going to mark that, and then we're going to come up here, and we're going to mark that. And I did not do a good job of marking that, so let me try again. Okay. So now that we figured that out, so we know this piece now is going to go on here up against those lines. I don't know if you can see them on the camera because I made them real light because I don't want a big dark line on the back of the birdhouse. So the next thing we have to figure out is we need to get this piece centered top and bottom. So we're going to do the same thing we just did. So let's measure this. Tape measure this direction so you can see. And it measures exactly 12 inches. And then this measures 9 1/2. Okay. So now let's go back over here. So now, just like we did the others, so we got 12 inches minus 9 1/2 is 2 1/2 inches. So we can take that 1/2 inch right here and change it to 2/4 so we can divide it easy. So we got 2/4 now, so half of 2 is 1, and then half of this 2 is 1. So we got 1 1/4. And if you notice, after all these measurements, there are 2 lines up here. 2 lines means inches. So every time you got 2 lines up there, you know it's inches. So let's go back one more time. So now I'm going to take my piece, the hanger here that goes on the back, and there again we don't have to mark both ends because we've got an even amount. So this is going to sit like this, so I'm going to pull it up, and this is going to be upside down for you, and I'm sorry. And we need to mark this at 1 1/4 inches right down on this edge, so that when we put this on, we're going to be able to see the 2 lines we did already, and we'll be able to see that line. So everything so we'll have everything centered up. So, can you see those? Okay, so we've went through a lot here today with these measurements and figuring everything out. So get your pieces marked, and then we're going to come back and we are going to put this birdhouse together.